If you're drawn to dark aristocratic romance, where power is quiet, decisions are final, and desire is never rushed, subscribe now. These are stories of old names, locked doors, and men who do not ask twice. The carriage jolts forward before she realizes something is wrong. At first, it is only the silence that unsettles her. No chatter. No familiar voice from the driver's bench. Just the soft roll of wheels over gravel, and the enclosed dark of polished wood and velvet. Then the door clicks. Locked. Her fingers tighten around her reticule as she turns sharply, heart pounding. "This isn't my carriage," she gasps. Across from her, a man sits perfectly at ease. He is dressed in black, tailored old world, unmistakably aristocratic. His gloves are folded neatly in his lap. His posture is unhurried, composed, as though she has merely commented on the weather. The Duke lifts his gaze to hers. "Right one, actually," he says. Her breath catches. The carriage continues forward. She lunges for the door. It does not budge. "You've made a mistake," she says quickly, forcing calm into her voice. "This carriage was meant for you," he finishes. He leans forward then, not close enough to touch, but close enough that his presence fills the small space. "You were standing alone," he continues. "You accepted the offered hand, and you stepped inside. That doesn't mean. It means consent to the ride," he says evenly. "Not the destination." Her pulse roars in her ears. "Let me out," she demands. The Duke does not raise his voice. He does not reach for her. Instead, he reaches up and pulls the heavy curtain across the window. The world outside disappears. "No," he says. "Seat." The word is quiet, still lands like a command. She does not sit. She stares at him, chest rising and falling, fury threading through her fear. "You cannot keep me here," she says. "My family will notice." "They already have," he replies calmly. That stops her. "What does that mean?" "It means," he says, "you were noticed long before this carriage stopped for you." The carriage turns sharply, throwing her balance off just enough that she stumbles, and ends up seated despite herself. He watches the entire motion without moving. "You're frighteningly calm," she says. "Yes. And that's supposed to reassure me?" "No." The ride stretches on. Minutes pass. Or hours. She cannot tell. The Duke speaks rarely, but when he does, it is always with purpose. "You were leaving the assembly early," he says at one point. "That is none of your concern. It became my concern when 3 men began arguing over who would escort you home." Her stomach tightens. "You noticed that?" "Yes. And you decided to what?" she snaps. "Abduct me." "No," he replies. "I decided to remove you." She laughs once sharply. "From society? How generous." "From danger," he corrects. She crosses her arms. "And you are the safer option?" His gaze meets hers steadily. "I am the controlled option." The carriage slows. Her heart leaps. But it does not stop. Instead, iron gates groan open, then shut again behind them. The carriage rolls onward. Her voice lowers. "Where are you taking me?" "My estate," he says. Her breath stutters. "Absolutely not." "You may protest," he replies. "But you will not leave the carriage until we arrive." "And if I scream?" "You may," he says. The walls are thick. The truth of that presses in around her. She studies him carefully now, the sharp lines of his face, the restraint carved into every movement. This is not a man acting on impulse. This is a man executing a decision. "You're a duke," she says slowly. "Yes. And you think that excuses this?" "No," he replies. "It explains it." The estate looms out of the darkness like something waiting. Stone, iron, panels. The carriage stops. Before she can move, he stands and opens the door from the inside. Cold air rushes in. "You will walk," he says. "Not because you must, but because it will look better." "For whom?" "For you," he replies. Servants wait nearby, eyes respectfully lowered. Lantern light flickers over gravel and snow-dusted stone. She hesitates, then steps down. The Duke offers his arm. She does not take it. He does not insist. Inside, the house is warm, silent, controlled. Everything feels arranged in advance, Fires lit, corridors cleared. You planned this, she says. Yes. You didn't know it would be me. No, he agrees. But I knew it would be someone. They stop in a small drawing room. You will stay here tonight, he says. I will not. You will, he replies calmly. Because the roads are unsafe. Because your reputation will not survive being seen exiting my carriage at dawn. And because I will not allow harm to come to you on my watch. That sounds like possession. It sounds like responsibility, he says. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, he replies. You will decide whether this was an intrusion or an intervention. He turns to leave. Wait, she says. He stops. You still haven't told me your name. He looks back at her. You already know it, he says. You simply never thought it would matter to you. The door closes behind him. She is alone. Not trapped. Contained. And she understands with a clarity that chills her. This carriage ride was never an accident. And the Duke does not reverse decisions once they've begun. Morning comes quietly. Not with birdsong or bells, but with the soft shift of servants moving beyond the walls and the steady burn of a fire that has been tended all night. She wakes in a bed far larger than any she has known. Heavy drapes drawn. The world reduced to warmth and stillness. For a moment panic flares. Then memory settles in. The carriage. The locked door. The Duke's voice. Calm enough to be terrifying. She sits up, breath steadying. Her clothes have been replaced with a simple sleeping gown, modest and carefully chosen. Nothing about the room feels careless. Even her confinement has been considered. A knock sounds. Not tentative. Not abrupt. Measured. Enter, she says. The Duke steps inside. He is already dressed, immaculate as ever, dark coat fastened, hair neatly restrained. He looks exactly as he did the night before, untouched by sleep or doubt. You rested, he observes. I slept, she corrects. That is more than I expected, he replies. She swings her legs over the side of the bed. You locked me in a carriage. Yes. And brought me here against my will. Yes. And now you're speaking to me as if this is a polite visit. He inclines his head slightly, because what happens next requires clarity, not fear. She studies him. Then speak. They walk the estate together. Not because she is escorted, because she chooses to follow. Sunlight reveals the full scale of the place. Stone walls thick with age, iron gates still shut, grounds stretching outward in quiet dominance. It is not a prison. It is a stronghold. You were not my intended destination, she says as they pause near the gallery windows. No, he agrees. So why not return me this morning? Because the men who noticed you last night would notice that too, he says. And draw conclusions. About what? About access, he replies. Her jaw tightens. And you decided to claim it instead. I decided to remove ambiguity. That sounds like justification. It is explanation, he says calmly. You may still refuse the outcome. She turns sharply. Refuse what exactly? He stops walking. What I'm about to offer. In his study, the fire burns low. He gestures for her to sit. She remains standing. Last night, he says, you were visible and unguarded. I was attending an assembly. You were unattended, he corrects. And marked. Her stomach tightens. By whom? By men who do not accept refusal, he says. And by families who trade women for leverage. She folds her arms. And you believe you're different? Yes. The certainty in his voice sends a shiver through her. Because you do not pretend kindness, he continues. I will not flatter you with affection I haven't earned. I will not cage you and call it protection. Then what will you do? I will offer structure, he says, and a name that ends questions before they're asked. Her breath catches. You want to marry me. I want to shield you, he corrects. Marriage is the mechanism. She laughs softly. You abducted me to propose. No, he says. I intercepted you to present a choice. What choice? She snaps. You've already ruined my reputation. I preserved it, he replies. No one saw you leave the carriage. No one knows where you went. And they won't ask? They will, he says. And I will answer. With what? With my name. Silence stretches between them. She demands to walk the grounds alone. He allows it. Not because he must, but because he trusts the perimeter. When she returns, cheeks flushed from cold, decision sits heavy in her chest. You never asked what I wanted, she says. I'm asking now, he replies. She meets his gaze. If I say no, you will return me. Yes. Without consequence? Yes. And if I say yes? Then you will never be unprotected again, he says. But you will never be underestimated either. She swallows. What kind of husband would you be? He considers the question seriously. One who does not raise his voice, he says. One who does not demand obedience. One who does not mistake possession for care. And affection? That, he says, would be negotiated. Something about that honesty steadies her. She nods slowly. I will not be paraded, she says. I will not be silenced. And I will not be treated as an ornament. He steps closer, not close enough to touch. Then we are aligned, he says. The wedding is swift, deliberate. No spektakel. No waiting. A minister is summoned. Papers are signed. Witnesses chosen carefully. When she stands beside him dressed simply, she feels something unexpected. Calm. When the vows are spoken, the Duke does not smile. He does not need to. When the minister finishes, the Duke turns to her. You are free to leave, he says quietly. Even now. She looks at him. At the carriage, she asks. Yes. She thinks of the locked door. The calm voice. The certainty. I stepped into that carriage, she says slowly, because I was distracted. Yes. And I stayed, she continues, because you never pretended this was anything other than what it was. He waits. I'm staying, she says, because I choose it. He bows his head once. Society reacts exactly as expected. Shock, whispers, curiosity sharpened by envy. But the questions die quickly. No one challenges the Duke's authority. No one doubts the legitimacy of the union. And no one dares speculate aloud. She becomes something else entirely. Not hidden. Established. Weeks later, she stands beside him at a gathering. Someone murmurs that she must have been carefully chosen. She meets the Duke's eyes. He does not correct them. Later that night, in the quiet of their private wing, she speaks the truth aloud. You locked the door, she says. Yes. And gave me no choice in the moment. Yes. She studies him. But you gave me every choice afterward. He nods. That was the intention. She steps closer. And if I had screamed? He meets her gaze steadily. I would have stopped the carriage. She searches his face. Why didn't you say that? Because you needed to see who I was before deciding, he replies. Not who I claimed to be. She exhales. And the carriage? She asks softly. He allows himself the smallest smile. Right one, he says. She takes his hand deliberately. Not because it is expected, but because she chooses it. And for the first time since the door locked, she knows with certainty. This was never about being taken. It was about being claimed only after she decided to stay.